So continuing the whole concept of AI and AI acceleration, our next experienced voice comes at the intersection of creativity, of learning immersion, and business simulations. He created a studio called Wavetable, a New York, London-based studio, which provides training and immersive learning experiences for the likes of JP Morgan, for MasterCard, and many others. IBM, for example. He's also on the advisory board of South by Southwest, and also is a guest lecturer at Columbia Business School, and also IE in Madrid. Please welcome Howard Gray. Here we go. How you going?
Good morning, everybody. In wonderful, wonderful alignment with our friend here, where you're asked if you're feeling sleepy, my computer has gone to sleep. So I'm going to have to wake up my computer. This is not staged. I'm just going to pop down here. This is not pre-rehearsed. It's a live show, everyone. We're just going to sit here, and I'm going to get my computer back up and running. There it is. OK. Oh, that's where the long legs come in useful. All right, good morning. Great to be here. Quick show of hands. Who has moved house in the last year or two? Stick your hand up. Get up high. Yeah, a bunch of us. Moving house is one of the most stressful things we can do in our lives. It's well proven. I moved house 2 months ago from New York to London, where I'm now mainly based. And moving house is stressful, but also it brings up memories of the past, right? We go through these boxes and we find these things that we maybe never used or hadn't used for a long time. I found this in my in my pack. I hadn't used it for 10 years, a poker set. Hadn't used it for about 10 or 12 years. I don't think I even used it when I was in New York. I just used it in London. I have a 4-year-old son, and you can probably imagine when this was opened up, he took great glee in scattering this all over the house. It went on the bed. I found these in the fridge. He put them in the fridge. I like labneh, by the way, if everyone wants to give me a gift. Love a bit of labneh. I even found them in my football boots. He was just spreading them all over the place. He took great joy in this. And it got me thinking a couple of things. Firstly, was I really wish I was better at poker. I didn't spend much time on it. Reading a table, reading a room, understanding humans, all of that good stuff. And then I also thought, actually, it's kind of a good metaphor for the world we're in now of like spreading bets and kind of thinking about how do we play this game, where do we put everything. And then he decided he needed a snack, and I snapped out of it and had to get back to unpacking. Something else I found when I was unpacking was this. Oh! Hands up if anyone owned or still owns one of these. Yeah, that's half the room. For about 80% of us. Mine was a little bit, yeah, mine's a bit beaten. The Nokia 3310. Fantastic phone. Brought back so many memories. It really took me back. Took us back to a time when life was simpler. To the year 2000, when culture was CDs, DVDs, PlayStation 2. Oh, everything was just delightful and simple. And of course, the mighty Snake, the most extraordinary advanced game known to man. So back in 2000, Nokia released the 3310. It was a real game changer. And what came after was kind of interesting, though. So it led to a bunch of innovations. Nokia kept on creating lots of phones. If you go on their Wikipedia page, you will actually see a list of all the products they created from 2000 to 2007. It's an extraordinary list of different models of phones. The interesting thing about this was the 3310 was kind of a game changer. The things afterwards were kind of a continuous improvement. These were all things where features were being added, new things, new capabilities, but it was still within this kind of closed ecosystem. Most people couldn't get into it. You had to kind of be in the game or work specifically in Nokia. It wasn't an open system, it was very closed. So they created lots of innovations from 2000 to 2007, but it was all kind of on this linear kind of continuum. And then this happened. Not turtleneck specifically. Someone wearing a turtleneck, going by the name of Steve Jobs, released this. Now the thing with the iPhone, we probably all know, Steve's pitch when he was up on a big stage at Macworld in 2007 was 3 devices in one. It was the phone, the iPod, and the internet communications device. It's not 3 devices, it's one, it's the iPhone. But I don't think the iPhone was actually the thing that was the game changer. I think it was actually what happened kind of as a result of it. So the iPhone enabled this idea of feature dissolution. So our GPS, that was €300, our camera that was 200 to 500 euros, whatever it would be, and our iPod or music player suddenly got dissolved into this new device. And the thing that actually I believe was the game changer, the kind of iPhone moment, it wasn't the phone, it was the App Store. So suddenly, instead of it being a closed ecosystem, developers could come and build their own apps. So in the Nokia world, it was always very closed. Apple's world enabled things to be opened up. And this grew into a $1.3 trillion ecosystem over the next kind of 15 years. In 2022, I think it was, $320 billion was paid out to developers who are using the App Store ecosystem. Meanwhile, by 2013, Nokia's phone business was sold to Microsoft, effectively for parts. So the phone was ostensibly the game changer, but I think it was actually the App Store and the ecosystem that really shifted things. And the two things that did it were open tools. So SDK is a software development kit. So this was a kit that Apple created where any kind of solo developer could go and build something, or a small studio could go and use these tools that previously were very, very expensive, and they could build anything. And the second thing was building communities. Had a very engaged, and still have a very engaged developer community. They run kind of huge developer events because they realize that these are the people that are building out all these applications and developing their ecosystem. So, why are we talking about phones? Why are we talking about Nokia? And why are we talking about all of this when we're supposed to be talking about AI? Because when does AI get its iPhone moment? And I don't think we're quite there, but we're close, and I'm going to show you why. So 2 years ago, I wrote this post. I'll share this afterwards. Today's AI is a Nokia 3310. The iPhones are coming. This was January 2024, 2 years ago. When I wrote this post, I didn't think we were there yet. We were still kind of in Nokia world where we were kind of playing Snake. Things were kind of cool. We could use these features. But the iPhone moment that I just described, that wasn't quite there yet. For example, GPT-4, I think, was the latest model. So OpenAI's model. We could use it. It was still it felt kind of magical, like when you used the Nokia, but you were still one way. You're talking to the chatbot. It's sending you something back. It's not kind of fluid enough. If anyone's used a product called Midjourney, which is image generation, in 2024, you had to generate an image using Discord, which is a community server, to get an image. So you had to go through an extra third party to get an image generated for you. It's kind of clunky. You had to, again, if we go back to our old phones, we didn't have that connectivity. We had to kind of go through a separate third party or an interconnected piece. Anyone remember this device? No, is probably the correct answer. This was called the Rabbit. This was released in 2024. $199 was, they thought, the iPhone moment. It turned out it was really just an Android app that was running on a kind of simple bit of basic tech. It didn't take off. I think they raised about $100 million of funding. It's all gone. So it didn't work out. So the iPhone moment in 2024 hadn't happened yet. If we take this talk, for example, I was using AI in 2024, so I'd use ChatGPT, for example. I use Notion for my documents. Other document products are available. I'm not on their payroll. I use Figma for design. I use Unsplash for images. And we use a little bit of Howard for my little brain. So in 2024, when I was using AI to make a talk, for example, it looked good, but actually, this is how sad and weird I am. These are the 22 steps to get a talk going. So I was having to kind of do this, wait for it to come back, now do this, now do that, wait, paste it, and probably you can all relate to that, right? We sit, wait for the answer, now do something else. So it's really, really slow. It was kind of magical, but didn't feel fluid and connected. Now, 2026, where we are now, I think this is what's changing. We're moving from something that was solo, which was what that was. That was me talking to a chatbot, getting something back, sending something to Midjourney, getting an image back. We're now moving from solo to teams. And what I mean by teams is teams of computers, digital teams that work with us. Some of you may have heard the term agents. We'll get into that in just a second. I'm not going to go super deep into tools today. I kind of wanted to keep it a bit broader, but I'm happy to chat afterwards if you want to geek out with me on tool stuff. That was an invitation, yeah. All right, so here's how I built this talk this week. So using agents and this MCP thing, model context protocol, which is super interesting. I use Claude Code. So this is Claude up here. I've asked it to write a message to the MCI gang. There we go. So I use Claude as my kind of central agent to do stuff. it's then talking to Notion. This is the outline for the talk that I made, that I sent to Avinash. And then I've got, oh, here we are. I made this using Figma, which is a design package. The thing that's different here is these are all talking to each other. So I'll say to Claude, right, go and update my Notion page with the new idea I've had. So it'll go and update the outline automatically, and it will also go and inject an image into Figma, for example. If I wanted to take that slide out, which I did, I can get it taken out. So I've rigged up all these things together, so I'm sending it one command, and it's doing 2 or 3 or 4 things at the same time. If you think about how that starts to manifest, productivity-wise, efficiency-wise, and also just running things in the background, where things are interconnected, starts to get very, very interesting. For example, this is Claude. GPT has this too. Video's misbehaving a little bit. There's lots of these agents now available. So you can start plugging these things in. If you go into your LLM, just press the plus, and it'll start to add them to your, effectively, stack. And you can start to build these kind of MCP connections all at once. Video is not liking me today. All right. So I think what's interesting here is we had the device, Nokia. That was a standalone device. The iPhone took us from a standalone device to a connected device. In 2024, we did have agents. Like a chatbot was effectively an agent, but it was kind of standalone. So it was doing something, but it's just talking to us. What I think is interesting now, and why I think we probably are at this iPhone moment, is we're going from agent and connected together, like I just explained. So I think that's what's interesting. It's starting to happen with these kind of MCPs and agents and everything else. Still feels kind of on the edge where it's not super usable yet, and you need to be semi-technical to do this, but I think it's changing very, very quickly. Where we'll end up, I think, is fish in water, where all this stuff is just around us, and we don't know yet. The wrappers aren't quite there yet. We will all end up with goldfish brain like we kind of do with our phones right now. But I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we're kind of here, to mix the metaphor a bit. We're kind of in the aquarium. The glass is around us. We can see this stuff. We're nearly part of the environment, but not quite. So I think this moment is, we're right on the edge of it. When we thought we went from Nokia standalone to iPhone connected, I think this is where things are starting to go. So what this means, AI was initially faster. I think now it's starting to make things different. So it's reconfiguring how we think about talent, how we think about delivering work to our clients, what's the value we provide. So it's starting to shift from just efficiency to enabling us to reconfigure stuff in many, many different ways. So back to the poker table. I've got 3 bets for you today. I'll take you through 3 bets, and then we're going to borrow a little idea from Oscar and make some bets. All right. So bet number 1 is talent. Who does the work now? Back in the Nokia days, if you wanted to make an app, you needed something like this. You needed a lot of phones, you needed a lot of people, you needed a lot of infrastructure. It was very, very difficult to get into that game. It was closed, it was expensive. In the iPhone era, one person, anyone know what this is? Anyone got addicted to this? It's okay, we're all friends here. Yeah. Flappy Bird. Flappy Bird was made by Dong Nguyen, a single solo developer. Don't look at that for too long, your eyes will go funny. I'll move it in a minute. So it was downloaded 50 million times. He actually had to close it down. It got so popular, it just got out of control. But one person produced this using the SDK kit that I mentioned before. So that shift from this kind of huge infrastructure to one person happened with the Nokia and the iPhone. I think that's starting to happen now. So what we have now is this isn't just for developers. It's not just for technical people, because the agents and the connectivity are meaning that anybody can do this. I don't mean making Flappy Bird games. This leads us to the idea of a department of one. What could a department of one look like? And it might mean we have many, many different and new departments potentially as well. So this isn't just for devs. This could be in production. It could be HR. It could be comms. It could be strategy. We might have many, many sub-departments of one person. And this idea of inverting the pyramid. So the pyramid traditionally was a big team in each department. Maybe that gets flipped upside down, where instead we have many, many smaller squads or solo departments. For example, typical production. There we go. This is an ad by Kaushi. Anyone knows about Kaushi? For the NBA finals last year. This wasn't produced for $400,000 with a huge production team. This was made by one person for $2,000. So this was an ad that they ran, I think it was running on Disney and NBC during the NBA Finals. There was a 30-second TV spot. They made it in 72 hours with one person produced it. Another example. This goes from not just content, but to something else. So if you're trying to build like a little tool or a SaaS product or something like that, maybe to get it going, you might need to spend 9 months, you need a cross-functional team. Now, in a few weeks, with some tools, you can build stuff. That video is not loading. There's a little thing I built. I was interested to think about what would IMDb Pro for speakers and workshop facilitators look like? So I started building it. In about 4 to 6 weeks, I had a fully functioning app with 5,000 profiles, scraping, searching, filtering, payment gateways, admin dashboard, programmatic SEO, content, all built on my own. And I'm not really that technical. So this stuff starts to move from just either technical development or content out into, oh, we can make tools, we can make dashboards, we can make lots of other interesting things for our clients. I think the key thing here, though, with talent is we train people for the old pyramid. So that way up, where we train them the way we do the work, the way we interact with people, the way the chain works, we train them for the old pyramid. Where I think things are going to go is going to look more like this. So junior people tend to have access to tools. They're very, very quick on picking up technology, a lot of speed. If we're senior, we've got judgment, we've got experience. Crossing this bridge is going to be really fascinating. Now, this isn't to say the middle disappears, not at all. I actually think the middle potentially could be really, really interesting because they're able to work across both. So if you're senior, you want to learn tools, get faster. If you're junior, how do you build the judgment and experience? And this comes into how do we train people, how do we build our teams, how do we, I just noticed the QR code outside for mentoring. I think that's going to be a big thing. So how do we kind of make these arrows, this bridge, as short and as fast as possible, where we're exchanging information and ideas and almost working across between these two groups. So, bet number 1 is talent. Small teams can win if you equip them. Not just tools, but it's also judgment, mentoring, connectivity. So that's bet number 1. Maybe you believe in that bet, maybe you don't. We will see. All right, bet number 2. So that was talent, this one's model. What are you actually selling? Love this quote. This is by Jim Barksdale. He was the CEO of Netscape in the early 90s when it became the kind of biggest internet company. And if you look, once you see this quote, you can't unsee it. It's kind of everywhere when you look. 2 ways to make money in business, bundling and unbundling. Bundling, McDonald's Happy Meal. We're going to bundle burger, fries, and a drink. Boom. Unbundling, Netflix. We're going to take cable TV, and we're going to unbundle a piece of it and give it to you for $8 a month or €10 a month instead of the 50 or 80 or whatever the heck Verizon would charge me in New York. Don't ask about that. But the idea of bundling and unbundling, it's everywhere. Now, here's a slightly uncomfortable truth, I believe. Clients will start doing DIY. They maybe already are. And actually, I think that's fine. It's fine that they're going to do that, because these tools are now available to everybody, like I just said in the talent piece. It brings up a little bit of extra uncomfort where we have the indefensible hour. Here's an example. Anyone see this? Deloitte Australia got in a lot of trouble recently. They charged the Australian government $440,000 for a report that it turned out was riddled with mistakes. And the Aussie government want their money back and don't want to work with Deloitte again. Deloitte were kind of selling this kind of through the old model. They were selling that kind of top pyramid, and then the actual report was just spat out using AI. No one really checked it properly. They phoned it in, and they got caught out. So the old bundle was research, production, coordination, all from one place. That kind of all makes sense still. But I think what's changing is that clients will only call for what they can't do alone. Now, what they believe they can't do alone and what they can't do alone are maybe slightly different things. Yes. But I think they will only call for what they can't do alone. Now, this is a little bit uncomfortable for us, but I believe if you let them do the DIY, and then we offer what they can't, there's still plenty they can't do and lots of things we can. So the new bundle looks like this. It's judgment, because you've all seen this 50 times, they've seen it twice, because you've got lots of different people you're working with, you're across lots of different industries. You've got appetite for risk and accountability because you can take on risk and be accountable, and you own the stack that they maybe aren't always able to because they may be a little constrained. The new bundle is definitely network. That's relationships, that's people, that's everybody you know, everywhere you've been. That's critical. And the new bundle is also surge. So when there's something they can't do, when they need that extra capacity, and that's going to happen a lot, talking to a lot of people last night about the magic in in-person connection and making them really magical experiences, that surge is going to happen more than they think. So that's what the new bundle looks like as a model. So what are you actually selling is bet number 2. You package what they can't DIY. And allowing them to do the DIY, as uncomfortable as it is, actually might be empowering rather than disempowering. Okay, that's bet number 2. Talent, model. Bet number 3, positioning, where do you sit? Anyone who's in like the kind of finance and accounting teams here? There's got to be a few. There are a few of us? There's a few. Yeah, I know. Gingerly putting the hand up. I don't get enough love. Like, you don't get enough love, so I'm giving you some love. It's Randy Johnston. This guy is like an undercover legend, seriously. So Randy's been at the intersection of kind of CFO work and accounting and tech for about 40 years. He's incredibly prescient with like predicting what's going to happen next with technology and accounting. I love finding out about this guy. I love finding out about the undercovers. Okay, Randy said, this was a couple of months ago in, I think it was like CPA Monthly or something, which I don't subscribe to, but maybe I should. The last cycle, as in the cycle that we've just been through, like the last couple of years, 2024, 26, was about adoption. So talking about tech particularly, cloud, digitization, automation. The next cycle is orchestration. Platforms, people, and processes as a cohesive system. Now, Randy was talking mainly about tech, but I think this applies to everything everyone at MCI is doing. So, what does that look like? Moving from this adoption to orchestration, we're adopting stuff. Oscar kind of talked about this. You're doing really well. Like, we've already been adopting lots of things. Randy said about bolted on. So yes, cool. Briefs, pitches, projects, great. We know about that. But orchestration is, we're integrated, we're running it, it's ongoing, we're embedded, the client can't live without us. We're the orchestrators. And that doesn't just mean orchestrating agents to build little websites, it's orchestrating whole worlds. Good example, Avinash was telling me about this. Anyone worked on this? Anyone know about this? Hope you do. European Space Conference. I think it's the 18th edition, something like that. This was a couple of weeks ago. This is an example of where we are orchestrating things as a company. So it's operations, it's talent, it's a place where anyone who's interested in European space will come. So that's orchestration. It's a good example of owning something. So I think AI makes orchestration both necessary, because we need to be able to orchestrate things, and it's going to take away a lot of the existing things that can be automated away. So it makes orchestration necessary. But I also think AI makes orchestration more possible. So when we use these things, we can actually orchestrate things, we can have control over it rather than just letting it kind of whittle things away. So the positioning bet is a little bit different to the model and the talent. So let's go back to Nokia just one more time. At Nokia HQ, back in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, they were asking this question: how do we make a better phone? And it was actually like a fine question, because they were really good at phones. They were really good at phones. But it's just the wrong question. Meanwhile, at Apple HQ, they're asking this question, which is, what if the phone wasn't just a phone? Very slightly, it's not a very different question, but it does something completely different. Shifts your thinking completely. So here, instead of how do we build a better agency, it's a very good question, right? It's a good question. Maybe it's this question. What if the agency isn't just an agency? What if it's us rethinking how we do talent? What if it's our model being slightly different? What if it's positioning in a different way where we are the orchestrators, the advisors? What if we're not just a typical agency, inverted commas, business? So bet 3 is orchestration. And when I say operations, I don't just mean functional operations. It's operating the world, the brand, the place that our clients live, where they want to come and spend time with us, rather than just being the bolted-on project partner. So those are our 3 bets. How are we doing for time? We're okay, I think. All right. Despite my computer going to sleep. That was real. That wasn't staged. All right. Place your bets. Okay. A little bit of fun. Giving you 100 chips. We would like you to distribute them across the 3 bets. Sorry for the capital MCI. My bad. Should have got Claude to check that one. That was a Howard. But at least I'm accountable. I'm accountable. Where's the MCI go in 2026? House rules is it's 40 chips minimum in this game, all right? If you're in my casino, it's a 40 chip minimum. So I'll give you 100 chips. In just a second, we're going to bring up a link. So we've got talent, model, position. So small teams win, package what they can't DIY, or should we be running operations? You've got 100 chips. Going to show a code in a second. Going to give you like 20 seconds. So just the first thing that comes to mind, where are you going to place your bets? That's what it looks like. The QR code is there. Hopefully this works. Or you can go to chips.wavetable.net. Hopefully. Anyone on that, just put a hand in the air if you've got it, so I know you're on that. Yes. Give you 30 seconds to put it. Mathieu, can we get the results up? Has everyone got anyone not need the? We'll give it 10 seconds, Mathieu, if that's okay. Some people still getting the code. Place your bets. Place your chips. Howard's your crew, PA? Oh. We'll give it 30 seconds to see what everyone comes up with. Talent winning. Oh, oof, oof. Talent's coming out strong. All right, I'm going to do 10 seconds more and we'll see what we come out at. Where are we betting? I think we've got a winner. 144 responses, 152. All right, keep them coming. Talent is coming in with 39% of the vote. Model and positioning, kind of neck and neck. All right, that was just a little, I've borrowed that from Oscar. Our agents were probably talking while we were asleep last night and coordinated and we didn't even know. Who knows? All right, so talent seems to win in this room for now. Small teams win if we equip them. Good to know. Last couple of things before I leave you be. Going back in time one more time. 1997. Garry Kasparov played against IBM's Deep Blue computer. Gary was a chess grandmaster, he still is. He lost. The computer beat him at chess. This was the kind of precursor to machine learning. It wasn't quite machine learning, but close. The precursor to machine learning was the precursor to what we think of as generative AI. All this stuff we're seeing now kind of started back here. It kind of went way back, but this was kind of one of the tipping points. But here's the good news. We aren't playing chess. We're not. Chess is rule-bound. There's only a certain amount of things we can do. Instead, I think we're kind of playing poker, where there's many, many people at the table. There's a lot of incomplete information. We've got to read the room. We've got to figure out where to place these bets. And Annie Duke, who's a champion poker player, an expert on making decisions and how we make decisions and how we think through working with humans and understanding humans, says life is not poker. Life is poker, it's not chess. I think that's a good life lesson. And I'm trying to instill this in my little 4-year-old as well. He's placing his bets. So always bet responsibly, of course. And thank you for having me.